de mi corazón.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are people who are fighting. Cory Mills is one of them. I want to give you a precursor to our next guest on the program. Cory Mills is a Republican congressman who has been actively assisting and helping Americans in Israel get back home safely. There's no more honorable thing that anyone can do. Cory Mills has blamed this chaos on the Biden regime. Please observe.
Biden administration, again, weakness invites aggression. And Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea, they are preying upon this weakness in the White House, this weakness in this administration, their priorities on wokeness as opposed to freedoms and safeties of Americans. And I can tell you right now, as an elected official, I'm not going to stand for it. And if I have to come over here and do Biden's job, then so be it.
Congressman, 2:30 in the morning. I wish we had every...
So, joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, a member of Congress, Republican, who has been over in Israel doing Joe Biden's job. Cory Mills joins the program. What a remarkable moment to be living in, where you, sir, are doing the administration's job for them and saving Americans in Israel. Please get us up to date on what's happening.
Well, Benny, thanks for having me on. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've had to actually step in and do Joe Biden's job. I mean, we remember in 2021 in the Afghan botched withdrawal when he had left thousands of Americans behind, claiming that he had the most successful, largest air operation in the world, but not telling the rest of the people that about 60% of that aircraft was actual Afghans who had never been vetted, never had an SIV, P2 visa. He was just throwing people on a plane to chalk up numbers. Now, you would have thought that he would have actually learned his lesson from that. And especially my team and I, we actually conducted the very first successful overland rescue of Americans, which was a woman named Miriam and her 3 children from Amarillo, Texas. These are Amarillo, Texas natives that were left behind to die. An 11-year-old little girl, a 14-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old little girl with their mother, thought that they had time to go there for one last time to see the grandfather, and was left and abandoned behind. Now let's fast forward to today. In 2023, we're probably at our most vulnerable because weakness invites aggression. We've allowed the China, Russia, Iran, North Korea geopolitical alignment to grow stronger than it's ever been, even though that's been something I've written about for the last 6+ years in the over 40 articles I've published in my life. And meanwhile, we're sitting here watching on the world stage as our allies no longer trust us, our adversaries no longer fear us, and we're seeing a growing aggression through the failed foreign policies that Biden continues to make. You know, it's the $6 billion in release. It's the now $30 billion+ in oil that Iran is selling right now. And remember, we're supposed to be under some huge sanction for Iran. But if you listen to John Kirby, he says, oh, well, there is this thing called supply and demand. Well, guess what? We also have our own supply. And we should be actually putting pressure on the Senate to pass H.R. 1, which passed in the House, called the Low Cost Energy Act. Let's get back to actually putting an America First agenda on the table. Let's talk about energy dominance, energy independent, energy security, securing our own borders, stopping the wasteful and fraudulent spending of $114 billion in Ukraine to get us into these never-ending wars. Let's start prioritizing the safety and security of Americans. And that's why I'm here. If you're an elected official, at minimum, your job, yes, is to protect our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But it's also to make sure that we protect the freedoms, the rights, and the lives of American citizens. And I'm not going to sit on my hands if Joe Biden is not willing to step up, and I'm more than happy to do his job. And so far, I'm happy to say that we've rescued over 77 Americans.
Wow.
That's 32 on the first day, 45 the second day. We are continuing to fight. We're continuing to go through there. And people can say whatever they want about my method or how we're doing it. But I can tell you right now, it is Team Mills, 77 Americans, and Team Biden, 0 Americans. And he has the full weight of the U.S. government behind him. You know, we just heard the other day, Benny, and I apologize for going into this rant, but
please,
you know, he's talked about how they had sent this cargo plane in to help support the IDF. Look, I'm all about helping support the IDF's right to its own defense, but I'm not going to risk American lives in that process. And if he brought that cargo plane in there, why didn't he announce that through the State Department or others that there's an available plane to get people out? Some of the people I pulled out yesterday had been there for 4, 5, 6 days, canceled flights, no way out, some running out of money and couldn't afford a hotel room. I mean, this is what we're actually facing. And meanwhile, the new plan that's come in, and I truly believe that the reason that he's pushing so hard, Joe Biden, to get a charter flight running right now is because I'm burning up the airwaves every time I come off of a rescue to basically put shame on him to where I can force the White House's hand to start actually stepping up and doing something. And now he puts a charter in place. And guess what? You have to sign a promissory note that you're going to pay the U.S. government back for them evacuating you and getting you to safety and freedom. Now, I wish you would have put a promissory note to Zelensky for $114 billion. That would have been a lot better. But no, he wants to actually charge the American people. I mean, this is absolute lunacy, Benny.
How is it that you are accomplishing this? Are these private donations? Are you going in with a private jet? Like how are you accomplishing your mission?
Benny, and I'm doing everything through ground operations. I'm literally coming across the border every single day, training, and basically with me. I'll tell you a really funny story. Yesterday was probably the most easiest, safest way that I've ever run because I actually had two of my guys with me the whole time, who I've known for over 18 years, who I did the Afghan rescue with, who I'd been in Iraq and Afghanistan in the past with. And we went in there and we went to the West Bank, went into Jerusalem, and was successful, and everything went smoothly. The first day I went in, the story that people don't know is that I had a transportation all arranged for me. You know, I had flown in out of D.C., just felt this conviction to go help people because I knew that there was people in need. Flew into Jordan, immediately went, crossed the border, got to the actual point where I'm supposed to have a vehicle and a bunch of guys waiting for me on the other side, two guys on the other side. Well, they had went into the wrong bridge, and so they didn't come to the cross point. And so I sat there for a minute talking to my guys. Now, one of my guys he had just arrived at 11:30, so it was like an hour and a half after I'd already gotten to the border, and the other one wasn't going to arrive for 4 more hours. So there I am sitting by myself with just a driver, and we can't cross the bridge. My driver can't go across. So I literally had to go through the process, walk across the bridge. I just said, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. Just get on the ground and make it happen. Walk across the bridge, no vehicle there. I took a taxi cab the first time all the way to Tiberias so I could link up with the first person to basically get into the consolidation. And I remember I walked in and I told her, I said, listen, Silver, I said, here's the thing. I know I was supposed to have a security guy with me. I know we're supposed to have a little bit of a better mechanism as far as our SUVs. I just got on the ground, less than 12 hours ago, and that's why I'm here. If you trust me, if you believe in me, I promise you I'll make sure you get to safety, but I need to get us to Nazareth, and in that interim, I'll make sure we get transportation arranged. But we're going to be taking a taxi. And I said, which, by the way, is probably one of the more safer routes because we're going to blend in, and no one in a million years is going to think that we're going to be running around in a taxi right now. So we took a taxi in between that point in Tiberias and all the way to Nazareth. I was able to lock on a bus that was there that was able to be able to secure and consolidate everyone. And that was the day that I finally got us back across with 32 members. But you know what? Not everything goes to plan, but that's okay. You have to have the determination, the will, and the conviction to know that what you're doing is you're trying to save American lives. And that's what continues to drive me every single day. And guess what? The next morning, I was getting ready to go back on a new run. And this young boy who was part of that rescue on the first one, his name's Easton. He's 9 years old, and his little sister, Edie, who's 6. I've got the audio of it, and I'll have to share it with you so that you can actually use this one day for the program. But I was getting ready to go back across the border on yesterday's mission where we got 45 people out, where it went real smooth. And I get this message from his father, Wesley, who, by the way, just texted me and said they're now home safe in the U.S. And it was his son on audio doing a prayer for me. And telling me that he prayed for me to be able to be protected, shielded, and be swift. And at the end, he said something that really touched me. He said, and I hope when I grow up, I can be like you. That's what this is about. It's not about the money. It's not about the publicity. It's not about the fame. It's about the idea that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Not as an elected official, but just as an American, as a good person. Evil prevails because of good men who are unwilling to step up. And so my whole thing is that I'm not going to be defined as an American, just like no one else should be, by an inept and feckless administration. I'm not going to be defined by someone who's unwilling to actually go over there and do what is right. If he won't do his job, I'll step up and do it every time.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Joe Biden is a slur on all of us, but it doesn't have to be. And again, I want to dig down into your mission here. You are rescuing Americans, getting them out of the West Bank, getting them out of areas where they could potentially
Nazareth, Tiberias,
where they could be kidnapped.
Tel Aviv.
Right. So you're trying to protect them from being in a hostile situation or an area where they could be kidnapped or used for leverage.
Well, but also I'm looking at the geopolitical ramifications here. If you think about the layout that I talked about, the Russia, Iran, China, North Korea,
Iran is one of the key things that we need to be focused in on because of their proxy militia capabilities. You have the General Secretary of Hezbollah, which is Hassan Nasrallah, who a lot of people don't realize that he's cozied up to Iran even more so than what a lot of people expected. During the Trump administration, when we had a successful counterterrorism operation that eliminated Qasem Soleimani, the Quds Force commander, and also Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, who is the Hashd al-Shabi Iraq proxy militia leader, what Hassan Nasrallah did was he wanted to take a way to step up, and he had his son marry Qasem Soleimani's daughter so that he could get closer to the Ayatollah. That means that Lebanon is even more weaponized than before. Now you've got Hamas, which is also being weaponized because of the fungible expenditures of that $6 billion that was released and unfrozen. And now you've also got to look at across the border in the Golan Heights, you have the Syrians there. You also have Heidi al-Amri and Qais Khazali in Iraq, who is pledging support from the Kataib Hezbollah and also the Hashd al-Shabi. They are surrounded when it comes to Israel's position right now. And the fact is that when Benjamin Netanyahu made the actual decision that he was going to go ahead and make sure he wipes out Hamas, which he has to wipe out Hamas, then that's going to go ahead and demonstrate the strength needed to, I think, is going to keep a lot of the proxies off. The problem is that this is a powder keg. And at any point in time, Israel could be fighting on multiple fronts. We already know that there's been artillery and anti-tank rocket missiles that's been fired back and forth when it comes to the Syrian border. We already know that Hassan Nasrallah and Hezbollah are starting to position themselves up on the border in some ways to act as an aggressor. We know the fight that's going on in Gaza, and what is happening right now is they're dropping leaflets for 24 hours out as they start phase 2 of the operations. There are many elements of this, and we have to start thinking of things more in analytics and less in singularities, and understanding that this would not be happening if America actually presented strength the way we did in the Trump administration, with an America First agenda that had good foreign policy, that understood the significance of things like the Abrams Accord. And again, the Abrams Accord is such a monumental and historical thing. You're talking about something that had not been done since the two times of 1979 and 1994 with Egypt and Jordan itself. Now you got Gulf countries coming in. But the other reason that Israel had to basically get this to stop is because Iran saw KSA in the normalization talks with Israel, and that would have been a pivotal stabilization moment if it was KSA, who is the Mecca, by the way, who would have been recognizing and normalizing relationships with Israel. And that's why Iran had to disrupt this, utilizing Hamas, and thanks to Joe Biden having the necessary funding, that's where all this is starting to originate. It all goes back to Joe Biden's fecklessness. I mean, think about it, Benny. Secretary Gates in the Obama-Biden administration, Secretary of Defense, who was a Democrat-appointed secretary, he said on air live that Joe Biden is the only individual that he's ever met who's been 100% wrong on foreign policy every single time. So is it a shock that we're in this position? No. Is it a shock that we're going to see something similar to this if we're not careful with cells that are going to pop up in the United States because of the millions that are coming across our border? Not in my opinion. We have to start thinking about securing our nation, making sure we're standing for our allies, protecting Americans regardless of where they're at, making sure we're getting to an economic prosperity and stop spending our way into the abysmal feat of $33 trillion, which is going to actually be the teetering point of our physical irresponsibility that's going to cause an economic crisis like we saw with the Roman Empire where they couldn't service their debts any longer. We are in a critical moment, and there's so much that needs to be done. And bottom line is that Biden is intentionally, Benny. No one can talk to me about fecklessness or ineptitude. This is puppeteers in the deep state in the swamp who are basically leading us into a multiple front of economic, diplomatic, and military weakness that is going to allow China to be a hegemony utilizing WHO and WEF to go ahead and advance their Belt and Road Initiative, cut off Western Hemisphere supply chain, and they are in our Western Hemisphere right now with the Chavez of Venezuela, Pedro in Colombia, economic coercion of Honduras and Panama that controls the canals, and now they're building a spy and military training base in Cuba. This is a multiple effort front.
People, I don't think, understand what time it is. I believe that we are actually in phase 1 of Americans waking up. And I am encouraged by the number of people who are scratching their head going, wait a second, hold on. Harvard's funding Hamas? Harvard is supporting Hamas? 100 student groups are doing that? We're not going to get my money anymore.
What about the Chinese police station in New York?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Like, I believe that we are in a moment of people waking up, and it's wonderful to see. Stories like yours actually cause a lot of people to go, wait, a member of Congress is just over there by himself, like rescuing Americans? Where the hell is Joe Biden? Where the hell?
Well, I'm trying to bring back this weird thing, Benny, where back then you used to have statesmen who were people of action, not politicians who are only people who talk.
Yes, that's right. A little more action, a little less talking, please. And a little more action for our country, the people who actually give you power, the people you're supposed to represent, please. And that would be very nice. God bless you, Congressman. How can people support your work?
Well, Benny, the biggest thing is continue to get the word out. You've been doing an amazing job by sharing my stuff on social media and kicking it out there, and I'm grateful for that. I just got to keep burning up the airwaves and making sure we're getting our message out that America, we're awake, we're not woke. And what we're actually going to do here is we're going to take back our country to be the constitutionally based, physically responsible, America First platform that President Trump is putting in place, and that we have to continue to point out these faux pas and these failures by the Biden administration so that the American people can know in 2024 this is truly the most important election that you're ever going to be a part of, and that we have to do more. It is time for us to stop being the silent majority, stand up and recognize that it's we the people, not we the government, and that we are actually the majority. When we get our voice together, we unify. The grassroots cannot be stopped. And if you believe in, you don't even have to be in Florida's 7th district. If you believe in our Constitution, the American values, American exceptionalism, and things that we hold dear, even if you're not in my district, I promise you, I still represent you in Congress. So if you like what I'm doing and you like the fact that I'm willing to stand up and call this out and actually take action, do everything you can to keep me in office, because you can guarantee the deep state will come after me.
Damn right. Damn right. Spitting fire. Quickly, Jim Jordan? Steve Scalise dropped out officially yesterday. What's going on?
Well, I endorsed Jim a long time ago. He's exactly what we need for America right now. He's exactly the guy that's going to go after and stop the weaponization of the DOJ, understands the importance of securing our border, knows that we can't keep spending our way into the abysmal feat that we have. I mean, we can't cut our way to prosperity. We have to have a real plan this time and actually get an economic growth strategy in place that allows us to grow our GDP to offset that national debt ratio. The funny part is I won't vote for a CR. I won't vote for AUMFs. I want to repeal an AUMF. I don't care if we ever fund the UN again, which has never actually done anything to our benefit. I think that we have to start holding people accountable when it comes to NATO and their 2%. And here's the whole thing. I don't even think it should be a percentage anymore. It is a flat fixed fee. You don't pay it. Article 5 is enacted. Too bad. You're not part of this plan. I'm sick of America being abused and the American taxpayer holding the ball here. Jim Jordan understands that. He is completely on board. He knows how the system works. I think that he would be a great person to lead the country. I was making a joke just today with a buddy of mine. I said, I may go back and forth across the Jordan River to save Americans, but it's going to be Jim Jordan who actually saves America by taking the House. We need to stand together right now. We need to be true America First conservatives. We need to get back to what it was to actually protect this nation and represent the people. And again, it's about restoring America's voice, not stealing its voice and allowing it to be sold to lobbyists and others.
Yes. Yes. Wow, that was really good pun work there. Fantastic. Supporting Jordan from Jordan. Yeah, let's go, Congressman. Thank you. You are welcome back on the show anytime. You're truly an American hero. God bless you and Godspeed.
Thank you, buddy. God bless you. Appreciate you.